Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome. We are 9 people now. I'll wait a little bit more. Let's see if there's more people join. There is more people joining. Welcome, everybody, to this first day of the Makers Festival. Just reminding everybody that we have live translation. So if you're not so comfortable with English, the live translations work quite well, at least for Portuguese, and it will be good for you to test for your own language. Is just the CC button at the bottom of the stage. You can see and you can choose any language. It's 130 languages. Maybe you can use also to learn a new language. Who knows? So as we are here, I welcome everybody, and I want to first welcome our lovely guest, that's Patricia Glauer, who actually is a guest, but is also a member of our board. So she's a kind of a guest and not guest because she's from inside the network. Patricia, before I start, I would like you to introduce yourself to the network, who you are and your experience before we move into data.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here with all of you. So my name is Patricia Klauer, and I have actually been associated with the Impact Hub for 20 years, almost 20 years. I met the original founders in London, and at that time, I had been running an incubator for social entrepreneurs in San Francisco. So so that's I go way back, and I've also been a member of an Impact Hub over the years, and just a really big fan of the whole network, and really committed, like you, to the mission of mission-based business. You know, changing the world through our economic activities. So I have about a 35-year career in building large-scale data warehouses, data integration practices, and I've worked in across, corporate banks, UNDP, universities, pretty much every kind of industry you can think of. And so data is my passion, and I believe that there is a way for us to hold the values of our network and somehow weave them with the possibility of us to become a powerful data-driven force in the world. So that's what I want to talk to you about today.
Great. Thank you, Patricia. So just to give you everybody a bit of framing where we are. So as we know, and we've been talking about data already for a few hours this afternoon, data is important and become more and more important in the world right now, right? Data it's a very powerful thing. And as most of you know, we do have our data collection practices in the network, that we do our annual global survey, and then we do an AirApp survey, Maker survey. We also at Global have a lot of data about Impact Hub with your financial report and so on and so forth. And there's been few years that we start to understand that we need to use data in a more strategic way than we've been using, and also more connected to our theory of change. And you guys heard Marine and Madalena talking about this just this afternoon, and showing some of the results of some of the data that we already have in our network. But since a few years, we want start looking at this in a more strategic level. And then we commission two pieces of work. So one, we commission an organization called Ziegler to do an assessment of our data collections and practices and everything that we have against our theory of change. And they gave us very good recommendations. On the back of that, we also commissioned Patricia to do a great work that she did around building for us a roadmap and a data strategy for the network. So basically it's a data strategy, and then it complements with a roadmap of how we're going to get there. because when we start to think about data in our network, and Patricia is going to share a bit of her diagnostic and her findings as well, it's a bit of complex things because we are in so many places, in so many countries, with so many different legislations and so on and so forth. So there is a complexity to it. So that's why we looked outside with someone who has so much expertise like Patricia to bring us and to bring us light for this amazing journey that we want to take, that's being more data driven, using data in a more strategic way, making more business out of it, but more importantly, serving better our entrepreneurs and creating more impact. So Patricia, I'll hand it over to you. And thank you again for agreeing to do this work for us and to work with us. She had interviewed many people. Probably some of you are here in this session, and this is the first time that she's going to be sharing a piece of the work that she's finalizing with great insight that she has and some recommendations for us to start to think about. Thank you, Patricia.
Thanks, Maria. Okay, Christine, do we have the presentation? Okay, so you can go ahead to the next slide, Christine. So this is this is where I want to start, is at a little bit at a 30,000-foot level. And maybe you've been exploring some of this today as well, but just to emphasize, why now? Why do we need to do this now? And we're looking at next year being the 20th year of the Impact Hub. I think it's super important to step back and recognize what a positive reputation globally that the Impact Hub has. And when an organization like the Impact Hub lasts for 20 years, goes from one simple little idea that grew into this enormous network of collaborators and change makers, it's an incredible feat. And I want to congratulate the Impact Hub and all of you for accomplishing this. And we can't rest on our laurels, right? We're now in actually a very different world than we were in 20 years ago when the Impact Hub was starting and we were starting our hub in San Francisco. At that time, actually, in some ways, it's very similar. At that time, we had just had the internet crash. It was an economic crash globally because there was, it heated up over the promise of the internet that wasn't ready to be delivered yet. And it was pretty devastating, at least in the San Francisco Bay area and probably all over the world. And also, we had just experienced 9/11. So what was happening was people were in a fertile time of kind of out of the ashes. What is some new way of approaching our lives and our business, and what's something meaningful that's important? And I think that's why the growth of this started to happen and really catch fire. So, but now it's time to set a path for our next generation of leveraging the strengths that we have woven in through the shared values and through all of the practices that we're doing, and identify the untapped capacities of this network to really promote our visibility on a global impact stage. Because back then there was no social media, there was no really interconnected world the way it is now. So I think there's an opportunity right now, and I believe that opportunity is in kind of shifting the emphasis, not shifting the emphasis, but including our digital and data capacity as a way to communicate with the global community about what we're doing. So embracing a digital strategy, it will consolidate our achievements, it'll elevate our visibility as a global leader, which we are anyway, but it will elevate our visibility and showcase all the innovation, and as well as amplify the collaborative power of the network. I think we have a lot to share with the world in our ability to collaborate, and the fact that we are in 68 countries around the world, and we have all these different cultures and everything, but there is this underlying shared um, set of values and approach that we all experience together. So, so trust, allowed us to get here to this point. Um, our ability to collaborate is our strength. And now it's time to have the courage to kind of take another step out into the world. And I'm proposing that we can do that through data and digitalization. So, Christine, next slide, please. So one of the things that was very interesting to me was when I came across this quote by Meg Wheatley. I met Meg back in the 90s when I was working in a bank somewhere, and I went to one of her workshops. And this quote: "Emergence begins with networks, shifts to intentional communities of practice, and then evolves into powerful systems capable of global influence." And I thought, wow, I haven't seen anything that summed up the journey of the Impact Hub better than that statement. And this is a statement about emergence. So I really believe that emergence, systems change, and digital and data enablement is the kind of the underlying property that can help support us doing that. And so we have a network, but it's been over the last few years, we've really consolidated communities of practice that really make a commitment to each other and to support each other in shared intention. And then I believe we're at the stage of becoming systems of influence. And that's what I'm really focused on in supporting the network in this way. And the last thing down there, critical mass, it's the point where something, an idea, a belief, a trend, a virus, a behavior, it's prevalent enough to grow or sustain a process or a reaction. So it has a momentum. And I think that social entrepreneurism has had a huge momentum. I've seen it. When I started, that term was not in the zeitgeist, was not in the modern language, but now people do know more what that is. And I think we're headed for another level of critical mass change. So I just wanted to give this context to everyone. Okay, next. Thanks, Christine. That's the last. So. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. So, okay, playing again on this theme, let's go from the possibilities to what is our role in the global community. And I think we want to always build on our strengths, and we have some really fabulous strengths. First of all, place-based innovation. Emphasizing the power of our place-based system. So we want to emphasize that strength and not become just a global system. I'm not talking about just going online and forgetting that. I'm saying having the ability to communicate what we're doing locally into a global community, and then hopefully drive resources back into our local innovations. And I think there's a permeability that data can provide, sort of like the blood of the data that's collected locally and then moves out into the network and out into the world and then comes back in. So that's one of the things I wanted to point out. Our brand recognition. So we have a strong reputation in the global community. And sometimes I think when we're inside and doing our thing, we don't realize that. But I'm here to say, being someone from in and out, that I bridge the worlds, that we do have a good reputation. And if we can bridge, we want to start to build the bridge between those with resources that want to fund the work that we're doing. And so that's another strength that we can do. our collaboration and our values, our ability to collaborate and the values that we have as a network is really, really one of our strengths. And we can bring that to the global community. And because the global community recognizes that, they trust us. So we need to give them the opportunities to invest in their trust. And then finally, community engagement. And I believe that our network and our community and our ability to collaborate, and when we open up more to the wider world, they're going to get inspired and excited by the things that we do. And so I think these are our strengths, and I want to preserve them as we move to a digital era. And the way to preserve our strengths is through principles. So what I really believe, and I've taken this in every company I've ever worked for, is principles-driven architecture. And what that means is systems have a point of view. And when you embed certain principles in the very beginning, that shapes the point of view of how the system evolves and grows and changes and is written. And it's easier to see that now with AI, because we all know that AI has a point of view, right? But even without AI, systems definitely have a point of view. So we want to preserve these principles of promoting collaboration by all stakeholders. And we want to have respect and promote autonomy. So people are honored, their individual choices are honored, their organization's choices are honored, and the decisions that they can make with data, with their systems, ensure the safety and service to their community, as well as offering a bridge into the global community. So I think that's very important. And then we also want to engage technology in service, again, as I mentioned before, to in-person connection in our local communities. So tech should not be a substitute for our in-person engagement in our community with our other stakeholders, with our members, with our fellow makers, etc. We want to allow it to transparently ease the burden of manual work and support better communication and facilitate access to resources. So that's the intention through these principles. Christine? Okay, so we are, we want to look at the context of who we are in our local environment, but also in the world as a group, as a big network. And so the way we can do that is to empower each of the local impact hubs with accessible data. So I know that you've filled out a lot of surveys and a lot of data is collected, but what we want to do is to return it. And we need an environment to be able to do that. We need an overall framework and an approach and a way to empower you with your data so that you can make choices about supporting your own community, supporting your members, and reaching out to other makers to support translocal business, etc. And so that's one of the most important, and I would say the beginning steps. The other thing that is really important is becoming thought leaders in the world. So when we align our data collection and our measurement and the way that we're starting to engage with global standards, impact measurement standards, et cetera, we can start to work with those who are committed in larger institutions or in other groups like ours, and we can start to attract resources and capital into our world because we can communicate this way. And then the third thing is really becoming systems influencers, because once we become thought leaders, once they see our capacity for understanding how innovation it impacts in a local way, we become innovation partners, we become implementation partners, for people who have really conceive of great ideas for change, but they don't have the on the ground experience. Then we become systems influencers by harvesting that genius in our network. And we can start building the bridge to these global communities through our data. So becoming data-driven is a journey. And I just want to kind of throw out some options for moving forward. There are many different things that we can do. I'm not proposing that we can do these tomorrow, because there's a lot of foundational work that we need to go through. But imagine if we can partner with external platforms as a digital commons. So what I mean by that is there are external platforms that have the technology infrastructure and ability that we can use to engage with. And we can do benchmarking, we can do certifications of our business so that we get recognition in the global world about what we're doing. We can get access to capital once we are able to do that. There are marketplaces and various different convenings by different stakeholders in the network if we want to leverage the capacity of external platforms as a digital commons. And of course, that will take an understanding of how the data policies are used, the privacy is used, but what I'm proposing is a semi-permeable membrane between the network and the greater world through data. We also, what I'm suggesting, we also would derive value of centralizing our data in an environment that can support data initiatives. So to be able to collect and integrate data from 120 hubs who all have separate business models and systems and data formats and everything is a big challenge. So we need to think about ways we can do that, and centralizing that data to be able to leverage the expertise in the network and provide the value back to the community is a pretty important step in that challenge. So once we do that, we can provide local hub-specific dashboards and with benchmarking, business intelligence, so you can see where you are in your journey. You can understand where you are relative to the rest of the members of the hub, etc. And then like a maker's directory to support your translocal business, to understand what are the core competencies in our network, who is good at what. It's really would be valuable to have a whole directory to work with one another. And then my vision is a stakeholder database that actually fosters an ecosystem development. So makers, members, and other allies and partners that are all supporting us in different ways, so that we can actually start to map our ecosystem and we can start to amplify the possibilities for change that way. So this is some of the things that I'm imagining how we can move forward. Next. Okay, so we've heard a couple times the term digital strategy. And I sometimes cringe when I hear that, because of course I've been in this business, for many, many years, and I keep hearing strategy. But I love this term from Peter Drucker. And he says, culture eats strategy for lunch. And this is what I've really found. And it's so important. And if there's any organization that can embrace this, it's the Impact Hub. What this means is that becoming data-driven really needs to become part of our culture. Having a digital strategy kind of seems like this, paper out there that's going to sit on the shelf and, oh yeah, that's our strategy, right? But it's really our culture that has to embrace these principles to become data-driven. And so that's what I mean by that. Culture eats strategy for lunch. I'm inviting all of you through this meeting and introduction to really think about how, in my own hub, how can we shift our culture to become data-driven? And so one of the most important principles I really want to leave you with is the fact that data persists even after applications, platforms, and things like that change. So whatever was used to collect the data in the first place, that changes over time. I go into large environments and they have so many different systems and applications. And what actually is still there is the data that they extracted and stored somewhere, and they want to do something with it. So data persists over time, but applications change that collect it, and applications change that visualize and present it. So that's one of the most important things that I want to focus on. The second one is shared data. So there's a minimum amount of data that we all should apply standards to and agree upon to share across the network to provide value to each other and to the sector itself. And not all data, but there is there's a core amount of data that is really important to be shared, and that's where the value starts to come. And then again, of course, to share it, we need to standardize. We need to have common agreed definitions and a common agreed set of valid values for different fields, things like that. Using external platforms and data infrastructure experts. Technology is not our strength. We shouldn't be building systems. There are plenty of people to offer services in this era that could provide the infrastructure that could ingest our data, that can help us integrate it and to present it. So I'm really recommending that we focus on our strengths and let the experts, the technology and data experts, focus on theirs. And also, again, I mentioned earlier, it should be principle and business based. So any digital solution and technology must be in alignment with the core principles and the chosen business model. Technology serves, it should not dictate, but in a lot of times, what I've seen is that the technology actually dictates a lot because it's the tyrant in the room that won't change, that won't be flexible. And what I'm proposing is a flexible environment that serves this network and their principles. The next thing is data sovereignty. So local hubs and members have autonomy and responsibility for managing their data through their local applications and platforms. And they establish their public-private data policies. We have to adhere to a minimum of GDPR standards, which fortunately are very good and globally, because we're based, our headquarters is based in Vienna. So that's really important. But we want to do this in a way that honors the sovereignty and choice of our individual hubs and our individual members. So there's a concept that I'm sort of working with people as what is the value in the public domain? There's a certain value of a minimum amount of data to be available in the public domain so that we can create visibility. And then what is the value of our data that we want to be held privately and make choices about who to share it with? So those are the things that I think are important. Cultivating trust through benchmarking, through certifications, preferably aligned with industry standards so that we can align in the global community. And then respect attention. So this is really important to me. I have a whole separate stream in my life that is focused on conscious attention. And so using digital to reduce the overhead and time to accomplish routine tasks. And the things that we want to do in the world, we don't necessarily want to keep everyone's attention online into a digital world. What we want to do is to facilitate the information, the connection, and the ability for everyone to do their work in the real world. And then finally, transparency and access, providing very simple user interfaces and accessible tools and a mobile first approach because most people are on mobile phones. So being very sensitive to making this easy for everyone. Okay, sorry, that was a heavy slide, but I really wanted to embed some of these ideas. Okay, so we do know we have some challenges with this network. Is so unusual. I mean, I've worked with global and I've done a lot of global strategies for development banks and various things for UNDP. But this is challenging because everyone has their own business, and everyone's at a different level of maturity in their business and capacity. So the business models are actually even a little bit different in the different hubs. Um, Cultures are different, so you might manage your communities in different ways. You have different ways of capturing the data itself. And so these are some of the challenges. Also, as I mentioned, the maturity level. So your resources and your capacity for managing your data and technology is different. And then the tech infrastructure itself in different countries is different. So I think that we just have to acknowledge these challenges and include them in our this is in our approach for how we address things. So what I'm suggesting, there are some actions that we can take right away. We can start to communicate internally to the team about the value of shared data, why it's important, you know, to within the network to find other resources to facilitate our translocal business partnerships, right? To serve our members, to support and strengthen their business, and to promote sector-wide understanding of who we are and what we're doing to access more resources. So there's some really important ways that we can just start culturally to plant seeds, and then contributing to and adopt network-wide data standards. So this is more than planting seeds. So the first part is planting the seeds. This is actually, tilling the soil. it's actually making a commitment to adopt a network-wide standard on how we're defining things. And templates will probably be arriving, and there will be, discussions about how to approach all of this, in the upcoming months. But I just want you to start thinking about how, even in your own hub and in all the different ways that you're collecting data, where you could start to standardize for yourself. And now integrating impact measurement indicators in your activities and aligning those with global standard certifications. So our business is about making impact. That's ultimately what we want to do. And communicating that impact is really important. So it actually comes back down to data and how we're conceiving and measuring. And there's a whole world of measurement guidelines and methodologies and things like that. So you don't have to become experts in that, but I'm proposing that as a network, we should develop expertise in that. Okay, so next. Okay, so very practically, how to begin. So those were, more conceptual ideas of how to begin. Now I want to talk about practicalities. So data standardization. Establishing network-wide standards to enable data integration. So that's something that we've started with a data glossary. We can keep going and keep moving on doing this. Shared data, I mentioned before, a minimum data set with standard definitions, shared valid values, indicators that are agreed upon, and there's consistency. That would be so valuable for this network. Then providing templates, we can provide templates to collect data in a consistent and easy way. So the idea is for any data collection activities now, hopefully we're doing this now in a standard way, and it'll go into an environment where we can start to integrate that and provide that data back to you in a visual that makes sense to you, that where you can look things up, you can have a directory, you can understand the thematic activities across the network, things like that. So we need to improve data collection, and this is the biggest challenge, I would say, in a community that has such a diverse array of systems and technologies across internationally and different capacities. It's just a really big it's a challenge in the whole sector, in the whole field. I'm working with other organizations in the field about data collection and measurement, and everyone understands this is a big challenge. So we want to align our data collection activities with the new proposed architecture that I've been developing. We want to integrate that data into a database to preserve the data. Remember, how we collect it is not important. How we preserve it is. And we want to expand the value of that data over time and make it accessible to reporting. That's super important. So then we will reduce the need for too many frequent surveys and additional manual data entry requirements. Hopefully, we will start to put a data collection process in place where it's more iterative and intuitive. And because we have a database, then that data is coming back to everyone who puts it in. So there's value out of it. And we want to improve the accuracy and reduce the burden of impact measurement and reporting by starting to have some consistent standards aligning with the global community, et cetera, and being able to report back. So hopefully we will be able to start making steps in this direction. And then the third is impact measurement. So aligning with global standards will encourage members to be able to communicate the value of their work, right? So if we start to establish some expertise within the network to support one another in this, I think that we can create an adaptive framework that starts to learn how we can use evaluation and monitoring and learning from each of our projects to kind of flow back into the network collective intelligence. And I really think that having an intention around this will be really valuable to us in our individual projects, innovations, and work, but it will also be a beautiful and important bridge to the global community. So those are some practical suggestions. And then these are some possibilities. So obviously, this requires investment. And, we can probably make a case out, and I believe we can make a case with larger institutions of the value of the Impact Hub network investing in this. So if I was making the case, and probably I will be, I would say we should build a data warehouse environment for the Impact Hub data. We develop proficiency in data management, and we provide leadership in impact measurement. I think this is the message to the global community about what we have to offer. And of course, we have to start internally with our own culture, and to start to understand the value of data internally before this can be actually seen and appreciated and connected. So we build our bridge from one direction, and then we try to get them to build the bridge from the other direction, and we will be able to have this really powerful platform, I believe, to help the network prosper and thrive for the next 20 years. Okay, next. Okay, so becoming thought leaders in impact intelligence. This is the famous onion, and I really love this slide. Our mission, our leadership, our commitment, our participation will have influence in the world. But we need to help it by communicating it through data. And so if we establish public and private partnerships to align with industry impact measurement initiatives, I think it will raise our visibility. I think it'll help identify innovation opportunities to the wider world that we offer. And we can influence policymakers to start to support the kinds of activities that we're doing in the various countries that we're operating. Having a impact measurement methodology and approach, building that expertise up in the network, it will provide, I think that, again, the principle behind that is continuous learning. So it's not throwing some, framework over data. It's actually looking at the data and letting it help inform us. And actually, some of the data exists within the relationships, the spaces between everything. So it's not just quantifiable data, it's also the qualifiable data of your experiences with the people in your networks. So I believe that there is a lot that we can do at the entrepreneurial level to support excellence and our competency frameworks to help enhance our business at the network, at the entrepreneurial level. I think there's a lot we can do with data that describes the capacity at the network level to the larger world. And then at the sector level, we lend our voices to lots of other groups around the world, and we can have a bigger impact on the global economy that way. I mean, right now, there was a study done this year, and they determined that, I believe it was 2 trillion, that it's a 2 trillion GDP, gross domestic product, is represented by the social entrepreneurs around the world. So that is a pretty big chunk that we can communicate out on the global stage. Okay, next. So I'm leaving you with some food for thought. What if we were the largest repository of supply chain solutions worldwide? What if we were the go-to provider to help entrepreneurs and SMEs become circular? What if we could provide mapping, data comparability, and interpretation of services on entrepreneurial ecosystems and vitality across all our countries, right? It would facilitate, market access for our members. We would meet the growing public sector demands for social procurement. We would be the go-to organization to help SMEs become sustainable. And we could supply institutions with our impact intelligence. So I want to leave you with some of those ideas. Thank you so much for listening, and I appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you for this very thorough work, and for all these inspirations. So we have one question. We're gonna have some questions for you, so don't leave, because I think Patricia and I had some questions for the audience. But there is first questions for you, Patricia. So Martin is asking, when talking about empowering people to become system change makers and thought leaders, how could we empower our teams to build capacity to do that?
How do we empower our teams to do that?
Yeah.
Well, I think that currently you do that. You do that with embedding your values and your collaborative approach into programs that you offer, and to creating a community, hosting your environment. I think hosting is one of your most powerful tools as an organization. So how do we host um, uh, the conversation about recognizing that even though this one thing that we're doing here, it actually, because it's in alignment with millions of other entrepreneurs around the world, if we can consolidate the data that we're capturing about the work that we're doing, then we lend that voice as a systems change maker to the rest of the world. So it's actually linking our activities to the network and then linking that to the wider sector. I think, that onion model is a really important thing to remember. And I think that's the most important thing we can do culturally, is to recognize that Impact Hub started as one little hub in London, and now look at you, right? So keep that that idea that we might be one hub, but we're part of this network and we're part of the sector. And we can see the impact that's already happened in the last 20 years with 2 trillion in GDP. So it's keeping that awareness, at the core of our activities. And then challenging ourselves to, how do we apply that to the data that we collect through the operation of our environment.
And then there is another question that I know this is going to be difficult to answer. Maybe you already have an answer for that. But in different areas of the world, folks use different digital tools and platforms. How can we incorporate a digital platforms that can connect our members and makers globally? For example, Slack isn't accessible preferred on a global scale. I think I know the answer for that, but I'll let you answer.
This is the biggest challenge. This is the biggest challenge. So, uh, back in the 90s, I was asked to do a contract for UNDP to provide a digital strategy for UNDP. We did it through data. We came up with a data model and a database with, so it was common definitions, standards, etc. And then the UNDP offices, which one office might only have a PC that worked 5 hours a day at the most, and it had a little desktop system, and one office might have had a very sophisticated network, but they all used the same data structure in the applications that they were running to run their UNDP office. So we would ask them to collect all that data in the same standard, in the same structure, and then send that to headquarters. Actually, that hasn't changed. That is still the most valuable way to do it, is to have a common standard.
Cool. So, audience, we do have questions for you. There is more questions coming, I suppose. So there is one more question. What is for you right now our biggest stopper that halts a quicker and well thought data strategy and how to overcome it? Maybe not.
So part of it is commitment, which is why I've emphasized culture. Part of it is commitment, because there's going to be things that you're going to be asked to do that you're not going to, that are going to not be easy to do, that are going to require more time. It's going to require communication with your teams and with your members. But it's like really keeping the end in mind. So whenever I go into a large project company, they're usually multi-year projects because they're so large, it takes a long time to accomplish. So I like to start with the end in mind, the success in mind, because you have to have a vision, you have to have that aspiration to recognize that these small little things, and some of them seem kind of drudgery oriented, will make a difference. So I think that's really, really important.
Thank you. So let me see if there is another question. No, I think it's just like appreciations. So we do have a few questions for you. Christine, can you put them? And then I also have. So we have some questions for to help the conversation. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put one or two questions. Let's see how many we're gonna be able to. As you respond, we would have a little of a conversation about it. So the first question is, what type of data are you using and collecting your day-to-day at your Impact Hub? So let us know what you're already using and collecting.
And are they typing it into chat, Maria?
Yes, yes, on
Okay,
the
great.
chat. Yes, please, Izzy, sorry. Yeah, right on the chat.
Yeah, it helps us to know what you're doing already day to day. What kind of data, what things are useful to you. Because we want to start there.
So let's see. No answer. Okay. So I think people are not collecting any data. I know at least the global survey people are doing. And I assume there is also some collection based on the members, like for invoicing, and probably some relate to your own programs, right? For reporting for funders.
Well,
Maybe you
when we
can
talk about collecting data, what we're saying is, you're getting you're at least getting member, profile information, right? You're getting who they are and what they do and some contact information. You're getting information about program participants, things like that. Alumni data for your cohorts, that's great.
Which is integrated. Oh, that's nice. That is integrated.
Integrating HubSpot for your CRM, that's good. That's very good digital discipline, I shall say. So, okay.
Maybe we're gonna post another question, Christine. So just a reminder that we do have a protocol that sets a minimum data for members, for the collection of the members, and I'm very curious to know what data you're collecting for members. If you're, yeah, what are you collecting right now from your members? Listen data, members, and makers data. It's good.
Okay.
And what type of makers data are you collecting as well, Murat?
Yeah.
Because we are to looking in build a makers database, right, to make it easier connections between impact hubs, and it will be nice to know what you already collecting there.
I think there's going to be a talk later on the excellence framework, right, Maria? So
Yes,
that
there would be a
this will all flow into that too.
as you guys don't want to answer the question or not, thank you, Izzy, for that. Members have applied to become
So
a
that's
member.
good, Izzy. Yeah, thank you.
Members are sign up in the Cobalt platform. You collect more specific and billing data twice a user feedback survey. And then you do the global survey as well, Izzy. Maybe I'll bring Izzy to the stage so she can.
Yeah.
It seems that Impact Hub Berlin is doing well. Christine, can you bring Izzy to the stage? Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, so there is a minimum data set as a protocol on a membership protocol that sets what's the minimum data set that every Impact Hub should be collecting. And that's also established that that minimum data set should be shared globally as well. So this is already established by the protocol. We haven't been able, because of many things, to actually start collecting that minimal data set and centralize that minimal data set. But this is the intention, and that's the intention with all this work that we're doing around data, is that we start to do that. But yes, this is already regulated and legislated by a protocol. Can we bring Izzy or not, Christine? If it's not, then I will. So it feels weird, guys, on this new platform. You have no idea, not seeing people's face, but we're gonna get used to it. But I'm enjoying the experience as well. Izzy, you need to raise your hand so we can bring you in.
Yeah, I have invited Izzy to join
Okay.
as a speaker, but she will have to accept it to be able to
Okay.
join.
So let's see if she can. Oh, I'm on the backstage.
Izzy's in the
She's on the
backstage, it says,
backstage.
but I don't see Izzy on the backstage. So,
I'm
Guys.
moving you, Izzy.
oh, there. Okay.
Cool.
There we go.
Yay! Hi, Izzy. How are you doing?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I feel like I'm in
Hi.
there is a big stage and you're actually coming to the stage and walking.
Yeah. He's walking on.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
joining us here, Izzy. So tell us a bit more about how you guys are collecting this data at Impact Hub Berlin, and how you are connecting the various sources of data right now, because that, I think, it's a good lesson learned for everybody.
Sure. And I also just want to say, Patricia, thank you so much. This was one of the sessions I was most looking forward to. So I got a lot out of it. Yeah, and data is very top of mind. Maria also knows, because Impact Hub Berlin just transitioned to a new platform. And we have around 600 members, so and 30 to 40 team members. So we also transitioned to a new team software kind of in the same month. So data is very top of mind. And yeah, so basically we also started looking at like 3 years ago or so, how to collect data and also how to store it better. Also, you know, coming from Impact Hub Berlin, there's also in Germany a lot of data privacy laws. So you already mentioned that, but that's different region by region. But yeah, essentially we do fill out the makers survey. We just and I think I already gave this feedback forward, but it was very, very long and our members weren't filling it out. So in the meantime, we also developed a survey that we use via Typeform that they fill out at a different point in the year. Actually, it's launches next week for like an end of year feedback survey that's very specific to our needs. And then mid-year later, we also have a specific space one. So for the people who are co-working, we ask them very specific like questions about soundproofing, airing, things like that. Yeah, so that's kind of how we do the feedback checks. And then within, yeah, from application stage to becoming a member, we find it very important to build already a community spirit, and that actually shows in how you collect the data. So for example, so also empowering members to become good community members, you can already ask them in the application process, like, what are you willing to share with the community? What are you looking for in the community? And then we have all of those answers that we can already start then connecting them with people, connecting them to certain programs. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's easy or anything, and like we're not sitting there always matchmaking, but it's good to have. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest updates that we've had. And also, yeah, with moving to a different, away from Hubble into Cobot, something a little bit more sophisticated really helped us scale a lot. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Easy. So, Patricia, you have any comments about Easy?
No, I
Press?
just really appreciate the idea of using the opportunity to every touch point, you know, the application, the membership and all of that, every touch point, taking that opportunity to engage with members as a way to ask questions that actually we're receiving data from them, but it's also actually helping them to reflect on what they want, right? So it's giving them something as well, right?
Yeah.
So our idea isn't just to be extractive. It's really important. That's I didn't write that down. It's a principle that's super important. We don't want to be extractive. You know, we don't want to you know, contribute to that principle that's we see out in the environment and everything else. We don't want to be extractive about our attention. We don't want to be extractive about, you know, collecting data. We want to do this in a way that is reciprocal, that there's value in the process itself. Because if there's value in the process itself, then it's an alive, you know, iterative opportunity to engage and exchange. So I really appreciate that, Izzy. That's a really good way to model what's possible. And then the other thing I just wanted to say is I didn't actually put this in words almost on purpose because I want to leave this in your mind for it as a seed that I want you all to like nurture and water and flower in your own way, in your own hubs. And that is the term data collaboration, because you guys are fantastic collaborators. That's a core value and strength. So let's think about this future for ourselves as data collaborators, data collaboration. And so
Yeah,
that's kind of how I want to leave it with you.
and
Thank
even
you.
co-creating. Just one thing, just to say
Yeah.
one final thing that really helped was when we did, we kind of switched to our more curated type form. We also co-created that with the members, like, hey, what is it that you want us to ask you? Like, what is it that you want to start benchmarking? Because we kind of co-own this space and co-own this experience in the community together. So that was something we also did a couple years ago. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Thanks for
Yes.
bringing me spontaneously on stage.
Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We are in the session. So I want to thank you, Patricia, not only for the session today, but also for all the hard work that she put on this data enablement strategy. So hopefully soon we're gonna, so in terms of the next steps, because I think everybody gets excited about it. So we are presenting this to the tech committee and then to get the approval of the board, who already kind of signed that they are, in line with it. And then we move to the stage of trying to fundraise and find business case for it. So everybody who wants to help and stuff, so please reach out. And it also means that for next year, we want a start and improve our data collection. So we would start slowly. We cannot do everything that we want in one day or stuff. It takes time and resources, but we already want to improve for next year the data collection. So if any of you are, I don't know, passionate about it, who want to contribute, who want to discuss it, reach out to us, because we are looking for solutions now. We're looking how we can build different ways of doing this to make our survey less heavy, but also in different formats as well. So closing here, the lounges are open. So people, you go to the reception and then you can move to the lounge. There is many tables that you can join to have conversations, breakout room, meet some other makers. And I see you in a bit on the next session. That is driving locally root systemic change with the Dona Economy Lab. So that is exciting. I see you in a bit. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Still on the stage.